There was an old apartment building in the middle of New York, which people had known for years. Apparently, this building was ordinary, but the locals often whispered strange things about it. Some said that mysterious events happened here, while others said that someone's shadow could be seen on its roof. Amelia, a girl who had just arrived in New York for her new job, was looking for an apartment to rent. Her pockets were not heavy, so she was looking for a suitable rental apartment. One day, a real estate agent showed her an apartment in this building. "It's very old but safe," the agent said, "and the most important thing is that the rent is also low." Amelia liked the apartment. It was small but clean. There was an old reception desk in the lobby downstairs, and an elderly caretaker was sitting there. When he saw Amelia going up, he just gave her a cold look and bowed his head. Amelia had arranged her things until evening and was sitting in the room drinking coffee. The night was getting dark. At about 12 o'clock, she heard a strange noise. There was a faint sound of footsteps coming from upstairs, as if someone was walking slowly. Amelia was startled. She thought that maybe someone lived in the apartment above, but the agent had said that the flat above was empty. Still, she ignored it, thinking that maybe someone had taken a new apartment. But this noise went on all night. Sometimes the sound of footsteps, sometimes the sound of something dragging, and then sometimes silence. Amelia spoke to the caretaker as she left in the morning. "Does anyone live in the apartment above?" There were footsteps all night. The old caretaker was silent for a moment, then said, "Apartment 6B, upstairs, has been closed for many years. No one lives there." Amelia's face went pale. "But I heard voices clearly at night." The old caretaker stared at her for a while, then said softly, "You just have to pay attention to your rooms, not to the sounds in 6B. That night, Amelia decided that she would not pay attention to the sounds. But as soon as the clock struck 12, the same footsteps began. This time the sound seemed closer, as if someone was walking directly above her head. Amelia's heart began to beat faster. She plucked up the courage and looked carefully at the ceiling. For a few moments, it seemed as if light arcs were reflected on the ceiling. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion, as if something had fallen from above. Amelia screamed and immediately turned on the lights. The next day, she asked her neighbors, but they all shrugged their shoulders. "Apartment 6B is empty. No one comes there. If you hear something, it's your illusion," a woman said. But Amelia was sure it wasn't an illusion. There was something moving above the door to 6B. When she went upstairs in the evening, she saw that the door to apartment 6B was closed, but it was covered in rust. It looked as if it hadn't been opened for years. But the amazing thing was that soft creaking was coming from inside again. Amelia's throat went dry. She went closer to the door and put her ear to the sound. She could hear clear footsteps from inside, ... and then a faint laugh. She immediately ran downstairs. At night, she was lying in bed when the footsteps from above suddenly stopped. An eerie silence fell over the room. Then she heard something that made her blood run cold. Someone called her name softly. "Amelia," and this voice was not coming from apartment 6B, above, but straight from inside her ceiling. Amelia's heart was beating fast with fear. That whisper coming from the ceiling, that voice calling her name, was enough to make her lose her senses. She immediately turned on the TV to drown out the noise, but the whispers and footsteps coming from inside seemed to be entering her mind. The next night, she prepared herself. She held a flashlight in one hand and a mobile phone in the other. As soon as 12 o'clock, the sound of footsteps began, but this time, it did not stop. She decided to go up. Her feet were trembling as she climbed the stairs. The bulbs flickered and went out in the dark corridor. Finally, she reached the door of apartment 6B. The rusty doors seemed like it had not been opened for centuries. Amelia listened and heard a child's laughter inside. Soft, but so clear as if someone was standing very close. Suddenly, the door opened slowly with a creak. The flashlight fell from Amelia's hand. It was pitch dark inside. She paused for a moment, but curiosity overcame fear. She entered. The room was empty. Only the rotting walls, the cracked floor, and the smell of dampness in the air. But suddenly, something appeared on an old wooden table in the middle of the dark room. A register. Amelia opened the register with trembling hands. It contained names from the old days, several dozen people, and a date was written next to each one. The strange thing was that the pen was still on the last page. Amelia's hands began to tremble when she saw that her name was already written in the very last box of the register. Amelia Gray, 2023. Her breath caught. She had just stepped back when suddenly the door closed with a loud sound. The shadows came to life. The shadows on the walls of the room began to move. The sounds of children's laughter and screams echoed all around. Amelia tried to run, but her feet seemed to be stuck to the ground. Black smoke slowly began to descend from the ceiling, which began to take on human form. A faint, broken voice rang in her ears. Once a name is written, no one leaves here. Amelia closed her eyes tightly and screamed. When she opened them again, she was in her apartment. Everything was in its place. Everything seemed normal. But as soon as she looked in the mirror, a shiver ran down her spine. On her shoulder, the same words were written in light red. Apartment 6B. And then she realized that she would never be able to leave this building. Her name was registered forever. If you liked this story and want to hear more scary and true horror stories, be sure to subscribe to our channel, Cursed Narratives. Your one subscription gives us the courage to bring you even more terrifying sequels.